Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I'm Bill, the company's expert, and welcome to the weekly live stream where we talk about everything related to entrepreneurship. So, full-time entrepreneurship and side hustles, which are awesome because they allow you to stick your toe in the water of entrepreneurship and do it in a sort of carefully risk-managed way that is great for everybody. So, yes, that's what we're here to talk about. The title of today's episode, this is episode number 96 of Side Hustle Ideas. This is called Entrepreneurial Mindset Mastery, What Took Me 10 Years to Learn. And what do you call it when you're about to reveal something, like truth be told? This didn't take me 10 years to learn. It took me more like 30 or 40 years to learn, at various times. It's sort of a gradual realization. So that's what we're going to talk about. As always, before we get started, the shout out goes out to my YouTube channel members, and also my Patreons, my super thanks donors, and to you, my viewers and participants. Thank you for being here. You are awesome. If you are wanting to add a revenue stream to your income, if you want to get out from under the thumb of an employer and do your own thing and be your own boss, these are all motivations for getting into entrepreneurship and side hustles. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I think business is an amazing thing, and it can really work for you and open up doors for you. So, thank you for being here. Now, I'm just going to check something because my computer, like always, has gone haywire. So, give me some weird sort of feedback. But anyway, so as always, the live challenge is, if you can see my beautiful face, you can see the chat box somewhere in the vicinity of my face, depending on what device you're watching this on. And if you are a subscriber to my channel for any amount of time, you should be able to get into the chat and post questions. So this is primarily a Q&A. So if you can do that, get in there, ask questions. What are you wondering about? What are you struggling with when it comes to entrepreneurship and side hustles? And I will do my best to help you out. I used to mentor startup founders. My day job is I have a consulting business where I consult for small, medium-sized enterprise. I used to mentor people, and I used to teach this in university. So let me know if you got questions about this. Okay. It says that there's 11 people watching. So, okay, it is going out live. It's just that my feedback here says that it's 0 viewers, so obviously that's wrong. On YouTube says that it's working right. Okay, great. So let's get into this. I don't know what the best way is to jump into this. I don't have very, very clear monologue to do, so I'm going to start, and if you guys have questions as we go, I will be happy to answer your questions. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. And as always, one more thing before I get started. There's always a live challenge for all you guys. Get in the chat. Let me know of a side hustle idea that you think is really cool and you would like to do, and we can discuss it. Okay, right, here we go. So entrepreneurial mindset mastery, what took me 10 years to learn? Okay, so like a lot of people, about 1 billion years ago when I was young, I had sort of a creative flair like a lot of people. And I also, by the way, I got a chip on my shoulder for people using the term creative only to refer to things that deal with fine arts, right? Like art, sculpture, painting, graphic design, stuff like that. Like that's certainly creative, but creativity is not limited to those areas. You could be an engineer and you can be creative. You're using innovation, you're coming up with new ideas, anything like that. And I would argue that a lot of business is creative, because in order to make money, you essentially have to do something that nobody's doing that exact thing before or currently. And I'm just so you guys know, I'm just pulling up my YouTube feed just to make sure that I can see, if there's any questions in the chat, because last time I tried to do a live stream last week, my regular live streams, it didn't really work out. It gave me all kinds of errors and stuff. So like usual, I just assume it's some kind of silly update to something, but here we go. Okay, excellent. Right. Now, yeah, like a lot of people had a creative flair, and what do they tell you? Let's see if I can find this, because I wrote this down. Okay, like think about this idea, okay? You are a creative person. You have original ideas. You want to do your own thing. You want to be your own boss. You want to embark upon some kind of path in life that doesn't simply involve you following somebody else's instructions. Instead, you want to be the person that gives you the instructions, right? And you decide what you do, and it's satisfying on a couple of different levels, right? Now, if you can make money doing that, it's, following your own path, that's satisfying on many different levels. You're earning an income, you are doing what you want, you are fulfilling some kind of creative vision of how you think things should be done. And also, the sky's the limit. There's no real cap on how much this can pay off for you. If you find better ways of doing things, you can succeed more, and therefore you, in theory, can succeed more than you would in any kind of conventional career, which is possible, right? The problem is that people don't really explain how the world works to you when you're young, at least for most people, right? Some people are very privileged. They are fortunate enough to be around people that are very successful, that are business types or entrepreneur types, people that have followed their vision and taken it to fruition, and have seen it pay off. So they've got a lot of practical tips, and they can coach you and mentor you as you go, and that's great, because that's really kind of what we all need, right? We need someone who's been there before and done it, who can give us the pointers and help us sort through the mire of what we're doing, right? That's invaluable. Okay, unfortunately, though, a lot of us don't have it. So this is the problem. Now, in the beginning, what do they tell you? They tell you that, it's about satisfying yourself. For example, art, right? If you have a creative vision, then it's about satisfying yourself. Show the world what you think. Show the world, the way you feel it should be done, right? And this is great. It's very self-satisfying. It's, there's a lot of good things to do it. What they don't tell you, here's something that I learned many decades ago, was that the moment that you try and make money doing that thing, so it's no longer a hobby, right? Instead, it's something that you're hoping will take off, right? It becomes a business, right? So the moment you take some kind of self-satisfying creative thing you're doing, maybe a hobby, and you try and make money with it, it's no longer art, it's no longer a hobby, it's a business. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a painter, who's trying to sell their paintings, right? That's a business. And unfortunately, the rules, the fundamental principles of business, they really contradict, at least the way most people are presented with what art and creativity is, right? Art and creativity is very self-satisfying. It's all about you. It's all about what you want to do. You want to express yourself. You want to do your own thing. Great, right? Business flips that entire thing on its head, right? It's no longer about you. It's no longer about what you want to do, right? If you're trying to get other people to buy into something, to literally buy something from you, or to come along with you in some way, you're trying to persuade them. For example, in the case of the artist trying to sell their paintings, they're trying to persuade people to buy their paintings by painting certain things or doing it really well or getting it in front of people that might want to buy it. The moment you're trying to persuade people, it's no longer about you. It's no longer about what you feel like saying or doing. It's about them. It's about what they want, what they respond to, right? So you turn the entire thing on its head. It's no longer this self-centered, self-satisfying thing. Instead, it becomes about listening to your audience, right? That's what it's about. That's the core of it. And the person who can listen better wins, right? That's what it's about. Yeah. as an aside, I see that the live stream software I'm using, Streamlabs OBS, has fallen even further. Now their built-in chat box no longer works. So that's wonderful. I think I'm finally at the point where I'm going to switch to a different platform. I'll still be on YouTube, of course, but to do my live streaming, I'm thinking I'm going to have to switch to a different platform because this is silly. I can't see comments and stuff. If you're watching this, if you could please comment, just say something just as a sort of comm check so I can see that it's working. That would be appreciated. Yeah, so this is what I would say to people who want to do their own thing. Maybe you want to do a business. You might be motivated to do it because of a variety of different things. Number one, you could be motivated by money, right? That's usually a factor, usually not the whole story. You could also be motivated by the fact that you want to do things your way, right? You would find it fun to be in the driver's seat of something that's putting something out there, connecting with people, and seeing people appreciate it and validate it. So it's like a personal validation of your ideas and your self-worth. So it can be validating on that level too. Combinator Records says, comment check. Thank you, Combinator Records. This is working. It just says 0 viewers. So whatever. But thank you for helping me test that. It shows that I can at least see comments natively in my live streaming software. Streamlabs OBS, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so you might be motivated by money. You might be motivated by some kind of creative desire, right? You might be motivated by a sense of accomplishment and power. You know, if you are wearing a suit, if you have your own office, if you have your own website, you have your own business cards, you have your own company, it's registered to you, and you play the part. You can hire people and you can have meetings with accountants and lawyers and stuff. You get a certain sense of self-worth. You feel like you're a big shot, some kind of high roller, Some people are motivated by that, they feel that that's making it, right? Artie says, test. Thank you, Artie. That's awesome. I appreciate that. I can see your comment, so that's great. So if you guys had questions, I would be able to respond. My camera's a bit bright. I'm just going to turn down the brightness while we're talking. You could be motivated by all these different things or a combination thereof, right? And they're good for the ego, right? They're all about you, And the problem is that, I don't know about you guys, but when I was like way back about 1 billion years ago, when I was in high school, I don't recall people really telling you about the realities of business, the fundamentals of business. Like if you want to follow your bliss and do your own thing, go into business for yourself. No one ever said like, listen, you got to really learn to identify an audience, connect with that audience, get to know that audience, because after all, your success will be determined by how well you serve that audience, how well you give them what they want or they need. And in order to know what they want or they need, you really have to get to know them. You can't just sort of stay disconnected from them and just assume you know how they feel. No, you have to actually go and understand them, right? So that's the thing. I don't recall anybody ever introducing me to that, and everything I've since seen about high school and what they teach, kids and young adults and stuff like that, it doesn't really seem to be centered around this idea, which is the basic principles of business. And I think that's terrible. I think you're really setting up a lot of young kids and things and young adults for failure by not telling them this. Telling them, go express yourself. It's all about you, It's all about what you want to do, The belief that skill and sincerity will be enough. You see, I'm looking at my notes here. No one explained the cold mechanical truth that success in creative industries often comes down to knowing your audience better than they know themselves. and then shaping your output to serve them. Okay? Not just to express yourself. So if you want to do something, whether it's creative, whether it's less creative, but you want to make money out of it, start thinking like this, okay? That's really the secret to things happening for you. That's what's taken me decades and decades to really, it hasn't taken me decades to learn it, but it's been reiterated to me over and over again across several industries at different levels for several decades. That's what everything comes down to. I would have loved somebody to sit me down back in the day and say a couple of things to me. I'm going to adjust this camera too. That's pretty bright. When you can see the shine off my forehead that's brighter than the sun, then something tells me it's a little too bright. There we go. How's that? Perfect. I wish people could have said something like, here's the market you're in. Wow, it's even brighter now. That's because the sun's coming out, so let's take care of that. You see how amateur this is? How homespun it is, shall we say? But that's okay. Because when people tell me you're not so real, I tell them, have you ever seen my live streams? My command of the technology is astounding, it's staggering, it's fearful even. I wish people said, look, this is the market you're in. Okay, they sat me down and said, look, this is what you're in the business of doing. This is the market you're in. This is what your audience is hungry for. You might think it's this, but it's actually not. It's this. That's what you're in the business of doing. Okay. And here's how you package what you're doing so that it fills that appetite. Okay. It hits their appetite, whatever adjective you want, or verb. This is what you do. Right? I would have loved to have somebody sit me down and explain that to me in my early 20s, saying like, here's what value looks like to them, okay? Even if it's not what you value creatively or artistically, right? This is what's important to them. That's the business you're in. That's your goal, and that's your measure of success. If you can do that, the world is your oyster. Okay, you can't command, dollars, reward financial success, unless you deliver demand. It's simple as that. Okay, that applies to everybody. YouTube is like yet another example of that. I've done many things, and I've led companies and stuff, and YouTube is like that in microcosm. You have to give people what they want. If you are catering to a certain audience, a certain market or market segment, you have to be able to deliver what they want and what they need. And if you don't, you're not as successful. If you do it, then you can succeed big time. And the better you are at it, the more you will succeed. It's just that simple, right? It's the whole thing in microcosm, Otherwise you're creating something beautiful that no one is asking for. Have you ever found yourself doing that? That's a common thing, actually. That's a common complaint. A lot of, especially people in their 20s, who come out of school and they want to go for it. They want to, take the plunge and whatever it is that they want it to do with their lives, whether it's some kind of vaguely entrepreneurial type thing. They want to go into business and do this. They want to start something. They want to, break into this business, or they want to do this thing on their own, right? It's, you end up, it's not from lack of effort. And a lot of times you succeed in creating something. It's just that it's something that's awesome, but it's something that no one's asking for, and that's where the disconnect is. So let me know in the chat if any of this, if you can relate to any of this. This is a slightly different type of talk for me. I'm more into the sort of the business concepts and stuff like that, at a slightly higher level. But this is what's critical, absolutely critical. And it takes people years, sometimes decades, to realize this. And sometimes by the time you learn it, it's too late. You're old or something. or you no longer have the opportunity, right? So this is the thing. It's, that's what it's about. The problem is if you're doing something like entrepreneurship, you're not doing it usually within a very regimented, official system. You're out in the wild, you're out in the real world. There's no higher authority giving you instructions of what to do, saying now you have to do this, now the next step is this. It's not like you're in school, where everything is there's a rule for everything, and they tell you what's going to happen to you next and what you need to do now, right? That's how you live your life. And people learn conformity through it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's very comforting. But the moment that's lifted, right? Like, for example, say you graduate. It's, after all, the month of June, and this is the time that people graduate from school, from university, right? It's a time of, ending, right? Now, for those of you who might be listening who are graduating for something and school in whatever form is now over, you lose that structure. You no longer have somebody saying, like, now you are going to do this. This is how it works. These are the rules. This is a step-by-step guide on how to do that. This is your deadline, right? There's nobody drawing you that map. You're out in the real world. And there is no sort of framework. There is no system, right? You have to decide what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. And that's why you fall back on these principles if you're doing the entrepreneurship thing. If you're wanting to get a job and go that route, there's other kind of ideas for doing that. There's more standard things that tend to work better when you're doing that. But for entrepreneurship, there's also equally, it's got its own sort of framework. There's several different things you can do or different approaches. But these principles that I've been talking about today, the idea that it's not all about you, it's about connecting with an audience, understanding the audience, serving the audience, giving them something that they're wanting or they're needing, right? That's an absolutely fundamental principle. Helicopter is here. Helicopter says, "Good day, everyone." Good day, Helicopter. Thank you for joining us today. Yeah, I'm having some issues with my my feed here. Some of them have been resolved, but yeah, I'm going to turn up my brightness now that it's cloudy again. This is what happens when you have an office, when you got a window, and it's a partly cloudy day. That's what I have to say. Because I do have lights in here. I don't know if you guys can see if I tilt this camera. I've got some lights and stuff in my office, right? But, they're not as powerful as that, right? I get the sun coming in and stuff. So when the sun sort of comes and goes, that's more powerful than any kind of lights I have. At least that's my setup. So I apologize if I have to stop to like tweak my cameras and stuff like a true professional. Anyway, let's get back to this. So hopefully what I've said so far, you guys can relate to. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about that. If you want to go deeper into business, by the way, check out that course. That's my course for learning business. I created that course primarily for entrepreneurs. So if you're wanting to learn business properly, not just through coffee table books that, there's a lot of misinformation in a lot of coffee table books, not all of them, but a lot of them there is, and you want to get the real deal, check out that course. What that course is, it's a self-study program. You're learning everything that you would learn in a Master's of Business Administration degree, a 2-year degree that you would take at a brick and mortar university. And you're getting the same result because you are using the same source material. You get a reading list, you're getting textbooks, and you're reading the textbooks. You're reading the marketing book, the accounting book, the finance book, the economics book, the HR book, the operations book, the innovation book. You're reading like the same books that they're actually using in a lot of world-renowned MBA programs from around the world, including places like Harvard Business School, the MBA program that they have. You're reading the same books as the people are teaching their courses out of in those programs. For $100, not 100,000, 100. So this is a solution for some people. The advantage is that it's extremely flexible. You do it entirely on your own terms, on your own schedule. You could take years to do it, or you could do it very quickly. You could skim the material if that's what you're looking for, get a sort of general overview of everything. Or you could just go, you want to learn marketing or something, marketing and accounting, but you don't care about the rest. You just get it and go very deep into those two areas. It's very flexible. That's why I created it. There aren't many proper solutions for people that are just looking for that. So check out that course. There is a link in the description if you are interested in learning business. Best bang for the buck around. Okay, so we covered the principles of business. We covered the difference between a hobby/creative venture that you do for yourself and a business. The business turns the idea completely on its head. A hobby or a creative venture is all about you. It's about what you feel like doing. Okay? Every decision that's made, it's about what's best for you, what you feel like you want to do, right? The moment you try and start making money with it, it's a business and the whole thing gets flipped upside down. It is no longer about you. It is about your audience. It is about what they want, because you're trying to persuade them to do something, to listen to you, to buy something from you, whatever it is, right? So it becomes about them. And if you understand your audience, you understand how to reach them, and you know what they want, and you deliver that to them, you win. That's what it's about. Helicopter says, that's a great price for a great product. Yes, I agree. Thank you very much, Helicopter. You see, it's the thing that I wish I had. I've taken an MBA from like a brick and mortar university. So, I have that. And the thing that, there's two things that persuaded me to do this course. One was the realization that after I'd taken my MBA, a lot of the material, a lot of the stuff you learn, it's not brand new. It's been around for hundreds of years. A lot of the business principles have been around for a very long time, and they're in the public domain, right? So while a textbook might be copyrighted or written, to an author, the lessons and the principles in the book are in the public domain. They've been around for a very long time. Nobody owns them, And so this information is out there, You can order books on Amazon for like $5, the same textbooks they use in university. You could get maybe an edition that's slightly older, 1 or 2 editions old. Instead of paying $150, you're paying literally $5, So that's what that course is built around. This knowledge is out there. It's free. You just need a guide. So I give you a reading list, and then I provide you videos that guide you through the whole thing, right? So it's the kind of thing I wanted. And I think it's especially useful for would-be entrepreneurs, people who want to learn business, but they don't really have the inclination or the time or the money to go and take a 2-year master's degree at a university, take 2 years off their life. They want to learn it as they go, or they want to learn it on the side. And so this gives you that. It's the same material. Yeah. Okay. So let's keep going. Okay, so what is missing for a lot of people is the alignment between your work and what the market is willing to reward. Right? It's just that simple. You're doing a lot of hard work. You could do really hard work digging holes and filling them back in. Right? There's no question that takes a hell of a lot of effort. And it's almost, it's almost fearsome when you see someone who's done that and they've worked really hard at it and they've developed some skills and they've shown their ability. Great. But what is the use of digging holes and filling them back in? It serves no purpose. It adds no value to anyone, right? That's the key. Okay? If you could work really hard doing something that someone wants or someone needs done, right? Maybe you work in construction and you do excavation. You dig the holes that they build houses in, right? The difference is that somebody is asking you to do this. They're willing to pay you for it because they need it done, right? But in order for that to work, in order for you to go into business, you would have had to connect with the types of people that need that work done. They also have the money to pay you for it, and they are aware of you, right? So even though your actual work is digging holes, right? These are two different things. One, very successful, the other completely unsuccessful. The unsuccessful one is a person who just digs holes and fills them back in, right? The very successful one is someone who digs holes, but it's done at the behest of a person who needs that done, who has the money to pay for it to be done, right? And who is connected to you and trusts you to do it, right? Okay? So the digging holes thing is constant between these two scenarios. What's different is the marketing side, is where you've connected to people, where you've learned how to discover who those people are. You've been able to communicate with them. You've been able to persuade them that they should pay you to provide this service, right? Okay, so that's the difference. Those are the skills that are necessary, right? Now, if you've never even thought to pursue any of those things, that's maybe why your efforts are unsuccessful. You're not making any money, right? You can't find customers or clients. Everybody know the difference between customers and clients. Customers are, more impersonal. Like, customers for a store, right? There's like a lot of them. There's thousands of them every week, right? Clients are people like the same thing as customers, except that you work with them more intently. They're not all impersonal. You know them by name. You know quite a bit of details about them, and you've worked with each one very closely. That's the difference between customers and clients, by the way, if ever you were wondering. Okay. So to sort of summarize and crystallize what I'm saying is that if you want to build something that lasts, you need to know exactly who it's for, what they want, and how to serve that without illusion, right? Without guessing or assuming these people are out there and you know what they want and you know how to reach them. It's by actually doing it, right? Verifying. Okay, the moment that money enters the equation, you're not just an artist, you're a business person. So you might have a passion, and that's what you want to do. Wouldn't it be great if you could make your living doing that? Wouldn't it be great, even better if you could make a fortune doing that? But now you're no longer an artist or a hobbyist or an enthusiast. You're a business person. The moment money enters into the equation, and everything I said, if you don't own that truth early, the system will own you. That's how it goes. Once again, get into the chat if you have any questions, comments, that kind of thing. If you've been a subscriber to my channel for any amount of time, you should be able to join the chat. We're talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking about the fundamental concepts of business and how to make money. So if you have a creative or artistic or entrepreneurial flair and you want to make money with it, either as its own thing or as a side hustle that you do kind of on the side, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the absolute fundamental, concepts here that lead to success. These are totally not original to me. These are in every marketing textbook and most business textbooks, right? I'm just sort of sharing them with you. They're the things that nobody taught me when I was in my 20s, or at least my early 20s. And I had to go and fail spectacularly at a couple of different things that were like more creative type efforts that I undertook. And this was why, because nobody ever sat me down and explains. I learned this years later in business school, but you don't need to go to business school to understand basic concepts like this. I think introverts in general are at a disadvantage at learning this stuff and having the awareness of this stuff. Because extroverts, they're out there connecting with people and seeing what's going on, They see someone who's successful. They kind of see what they're doing. They see what's going on around them. They get some ideas. They go, that's what that looks like. Okay, so if I want to be successful, I have to kind of be like that. And I see that person doing this and this and this activities. So, okay, But introverts are at a little bit of a disadvantage. Okay, I'm a total introvert. I know a lot of you guys are introverts. We're awesome in some ways. We beat extroverts hands down in several ways, but we have our weaknesses too, and this is one of them. You don't focus on other people as much as, say, extroverts do. You're not exposed to other people as much. So you're slower to sort of connect with an audience or realize the importance of that, The beauty of the internet age and the social networking age is that, you can stay in your home and yet connect with the world. It's all abstract, right? It's all through social media and the internet. It's all done remotely, right? But realizing you have to do this is still not obvious, especially to a lot of introverts. I want to read this. This is some notes I made earlier. The romantic ideal of the pure artist, making something from the soul and waiting to be discovered. That's a beautiful thing. Beautiful. But in the real world, okay, it's unsustainable unless it's paired with strategy, positioning, and a hard look at the market. Okay? Art becomes product the second it asks for attention in a noisy world. You like how poetic this is? Beautiful. Especially if it asks for money. Okay? Right? So I'm going to repeat that last part. Art becomes product the second it asks for attention in a noisy world, especially if it asks for money. Right? It's not about you anymore. It's about what your audience wants or needs. And if you give it to them, they love you. They buy it. They do whatever it is that you want them to do. If you're a politician, they vote for you. If you're a business person, they buy your thing, right? If you're an influencer of some kind, they agree with you, right? It's not about you, it's about them. Okay? Being a creative is essentially being an entrepreneur. Okay, you're building a brand, you're building a market, you're identifying a market, you're building a brand. I got to look at the right camera here. You're iterating based on feedback. You're doing customer service, product development, and outreach. Right? That's what you do. One of those things I got to get a little keypad where you press all the little buttons, and that's what toggles between screens and does certain things. Sound effects, that kind of stuff. You can press the little button to get the car horn, press the little button to get the applause, right? That's what a lot of YouTubers do. They do that kind of stuff. I don't have that. I'm just using my keyboard, and I'm doing a great job at it too, as I'm sure you guys will agree. Thank you for being here, by the way. I appreciate you listening to this. I'm trying out a slightly new type of thing on my live streams. I don't traditionally do like sort of motivational speeches, stuff like that. But this is kind of in that direction because this stuff is so fundamentally important. You could talk about business principles all day long, but if you just don't understand this absolutely fundamental stuff, it all comes to naught, basically. Like I said earlier, almost no young creatives are taught this. They're told to follow their passion, or do what they love, right? Without ever being told that passion is fuel, but strategy is the wheel. Strategy is the engine, right? Okay. So anyway, what we've covered today, what we've talked about is essentially the absolute fundamental basics of marketing. Okay. Marketing is the scientific study of groups of customers or potential customers. That's what marketing is. Who are these people? Where are they? How do you reach them? What do they want? How do you find out this stuff? How do you find out who your market is? How do you find out where they are? How do you find out how to reach them? And how do you find out what to say to them that will convince them to do business with you? Right? How do you understand what they want and what they need and what they would go for and what they wouldn't go for? That's marketing. It's one of the areas of business. Now, like I said earlier, if you want to learn business, yes, it's been on the screen for a while. Check out that course. That's my course called the $100 MBA. Not $100,000, $100. Somebody asked me, somebody was starting to talk to me like it was $100,000. Like, no, it's 100. 100. It's like nothing, you know, when we're talking about education. You know what I mean? Absolutely nothing. It's a self-study course. You do it entirely on your own terms. There are no evaluations, no exams, no assignments. You know, you can certainly do that stuff. You can do practice problems and, you know, case studies and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, there's the answers and all that kind of stuff. You can do that if you want, but you don't have to. What this means is that it's very flexible. Not only can you take as much time as you want to learn the material, but it also means that you can go into the material only as deep as you want to go. So if you're kind of interested, but you're not super interested, you can just sort of skim it. And that's fine. The way you would skim a textbook, you know? And that's what this course is. It's basically taught out of textbooks. The same textbooks they use in university, in business school, in MBA programs around the world that are some of the most renowned MBA programs in the world. You're getting some of the best textbooks on their respective areas. So the marketing textbook is written by, you know, one of the geniuses of marketing, whose book is being used in a lot of MBA programs around the world that they're teaching out of, right? So you're getting the information right from the source. It's just that you're reading it at home. You're buying the book on Amazon for substantially cheaper, and then you're reading it at home on your own schedule and when you feel like it. That's the idea. So very flexible. So that's why I created this. I created it for entrepreneur types in mind. So go check out that course if that appeals to you. I wholeheartedly encourage everybody to learn about business. If you ever try to do something where you need people to be into it, right? Like a company that sells something, you want customers. The more customers, the better. The more your customers think about you, the better. The more they will buy, right? The more they'll be happy with what they've bought from you, right? If you're trying to persuade people, if you're trying to make something popular, right? Marketing is the handbook of how to do that. It's the playbook. You know, that's what that study is called. That's what that area is called. Marketing. Scientific study of customers and potential customers, right? So in business, you learn that. You learn several other things. You learn accounting. You learn finance. You learn HR. You learn economics. You learn, there's all kinds of stuff. You learn even things like business ethics. You know, we covered operations. We covered innovation. There's things like quality, project management, leadership. It goes on and on. So you learn all these different areas, right? If you get my course, you can learn all of them, or you could just do one area if that's all you wanted to. Anyway, it's up to you. Check out that course if you're into it. It's basically the map. It's basically the map for how to succeed in making something popular, which when you're selling something means how to make a lot of money, right? It's the map. And when someone has the map, they don't need to walk as far to reach the treasure. You're not learning by trial and error. That's the beautiful thing about business. So hopefully that makes sense. I see that there are 21 people here. Thank you for being here today. You guys are awesome. I have another live stream later this afternoon in about an hour and 15 minutes where we talk about job search. So stick around for that if you are interested. Other than that, I'd like to open it up for questions if there are any questions. I know there's just over 20 people here. If you have any questions for me, your moment of glory has arrived. I ran out of things to say, so I will just hang out for a minute or so to answer any questions anyone might have. And then I will be back in an hour and 15 minutes. Let me know if you prefer this style of live streaming, this type of topic, or you prefer my regular stuff. My regular stuff is a little more technical, a little more sort of business principles. This has been kind of my effort, for better or worse, to try and do more of an inspirational thing. a more fundamental thing, starting with like very young people they're just starting out. It's kind of the absolute fundamentals. So let me know if you have any thoughts on that. Yep, check out my other channels here, if I can orient my finger correctly, because my screen is backwards. You can't really see it, but there we go. If I put my arm here, you can. The Company's Expert 2 and the Company's Expert 3, these are my other YouTube channels. The Company's Expert 3 is more for business kind of stuff, so go subscribe to that if you are here for entrepreneurship and business. The Company's Expert 2 is even more sort of job search type things. So go check that out, go subscribe and all that. For those, if you are interested. In the meantime, while I'm just killing a bit of time here, check out this course here for learning how to get a job, if that's more of what you're wanting to learn. Link in the description box below. And I've also done videos that describe all these courses. So there's links to those in the description box under this live stream also, that explains how the course works, what you get, all that kind of stuff. And finally, I have this course here, my third and final course, that is for improving your communication skills, your soft skills. Basically, I took everything to do with communication skills that I learned from going from a supervisor to a CEO over 20 years plus, and I put it all into that course. As you climb the ladder in a conventional career, you need to tack on many other skills besides technical skills. Communication skills are a big part of that, but other things too. Financial skills, people management skills. There's a lot of things in there, right? Leadership. So this is the communication skills component put into a course. So if you are interested in that, check out the links in the description box below. Okay, not a lot of questions, but that's fine. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. I will be back in just over an hour talking about job search. I will be back talking about entrepreneurship same time next week. So tune in again for another edition of Side Hustle Ideas. Thanks, and remember, you're awesome. Take care.